Hi, welcome to another Power Blast podcast. Do you have a bucket list? Things you want to do, learn, see? Well, join me on this podcast as I get to interview a young, newly married couple who just finished, get this, a 4.5-month world tour for their honeymoon. From viewing the solar eclipse in Stanley, Idaho, to hiking to the base camp at Mt Everest, to hanging with the orangutans in the rainforest of Indonesia, even swimming with the whales in Tonga. They covered a lot of territory, and what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how they got time off work, how to talk to your employer to get the time off work, bucket list items, planning and packing for such an adventure, tips for conquering your bucket list, even the personal growth that you gain by doing such an adventure, tips for traveling to unfamiliar countries, and just so much more. I learned so much from this interview, and I'm really excited to share it with you. Are you ready? Let's get to it. All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Power Blast podcast. I have two amazing guests here. They happen to be over in the UK, so it's like getting in the evening time for them, and it's right around noon for me. Omar Mohammed and Sophie Jankel, welcome to Power Blast podcast.
Hey, Barry.
Hi.
Great to be here. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Okay, so I'm giving a little bit of a pre-warm up of what we're going to talk about today, but just kind of fill you guys in. Power Blast podcast, I've been doing this once a week for well over 10 years. I think coming on upon 11 years now. It's like, this is episode 573. Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. But we talk about health and fitness stuff mainly on here, but we also talk about personal development stuff. We talk about just living a happy, fulfilling life and making the moments count and details matter. And I had the honor of meeting you two in Stanley, Idaho, of all places. We happened to be traveling there. There was a big event happening when we met, something called a total eclipse, and we'd just gotten done seeing that. And you started telling me about your story, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. Not everybody does this, and I can't wait for you to share your experience and what you've done, because I was like, I got to follow these people. And I'm sitting there chatting with a family, and you guys went off and you're talking to somebody else. I came back over to Sophie. I'm like, are you on Facebook? Are you on Instagram?
Yeah.
Are you going to share some of this stuff? Because I want to watch. I want to be a part of the action, even though I'm not there. So just in a few sentences, what did you guys do? I mean, I haven't given that much of a teaser to the audience or anything here of what it was that you guys have done.
We basically got married, and then we decided that we just wanted to take some time out and go travel the world and do a bit of a bucket list type job. So we both applied for some time off work and got sabbaticals from work. And for 4.5 months, we went to 10 countries, basically flying around the world. So we started in London. We flew to the US. Then we flew to New Zealand. We went to Tonga. We went to Vanuatu. We went to Australia. Then we went to Indonesia. Then we went to Nepal to Everest Base Camp. We flew to Japan to see the autumn leaves in Japan. And then we flew to Hong Kong to see some friends. And then we went to the Philippines, and then we came home. So that took 4.5 months, basically, 10 countries.
Yeah.
I'm watching the overlay in my head with this map and a little plane drawing this little line around it. I mean,
It's a bit squiggly.
It's very squiggly.
it's squiggly. And so I mean, not everybody just goes and says, let's go travel the world. I mean, people probably say, let's travel the world. Okay, let's take that part out of it. Not everybody says, let's do it in a 4.5 months time, and asking the boss for some time off. That's not some time off. Some people are like, can I have an extra 5 days or an extra weekend? So you're looking at a significant amount of time. Tell us how did you decide that that's the thing that you guys wanted to do? And how did the bosses say, and
Yeah. Well, I think we kind of landed on an amount of time that would be more difficult for our employers to actually find someone else. So, 6 months, potentially they could turn around and say, okay, just go and we'll just find someone else. 2-3 months, that wasn't long enough for us to do what we wanted to do. So 4.5 months, I think it was really 4 months, but then we needed the extra, that half was to get to the eclipse, because that was midway through August. So it was 4.5 months. And yeah, that felt like, I think I particularly really had to sell it with work, because, it would cause them more hassle to let me go and find someone else. And in that time, I'll be back again. So you might as well just wait for me. But for me, Omar had been traveling. This is like Omar's 4th sabbatical. So you're speaking to like a sabbatical veteran.
Yeah.
I'd never done a sabbatical before. And, we got married, and I said, before all the serious stuff starts and families and whatever, I really, really want to go traveling. And also, obviously, when you get married, people wanted to buy us gifts, but we already had everything. So we just said to people, if you would like to give us something, then it would be great if you could contribute towards our honeymoon, or what we called it, the mega moon in the end. And so that paid for about half of everything as well.
There's two main things, Perry, to explain this. I think like the first one is there's a difference between the way that the US and the UK works in terms of work-life balance, between the relationship between an employer and an employee. And then there's something generational. There's something about people in our age group that is different to the age groups before us. And those two things combined probably make it seem really weird to you, but totally normal to us.
Still not normal. A lot of our friends do it, but I'd say it's not everyone does it. It's probably 50-50 or less.
It's not uncommon at all.
It's not uncommon, but yeah.
Loads of, I could name you 15 people that have done it. Friends of mine.
Let's go on along around to different places, or have just taken an extended time off.
More my friends than yours, actually.
Yeah, it's not. People have heard of it, but really, you have to be in the right circumstances at work, and you have to be able to afford it. And not everyone has that. Yeah. So
loads of my friends have been, and like Sophie said, it's the 4th time that I've done it now. And what you find, even after doing it 4 times, I think I've spent 14 months on the road altogether with a backpack going around the world on 4 different trips. And I could honestly do it another 10 times and not cover the stuff that I want to see and do.
Okay. So you weren't a newbie at this, so you had learned some things along the way that could streamline that process of planning it, what to take, not necessarily what you were going to experience at each place, but kind of a general idea. You probably did some research.
Definitely. He really, he took the lead on all of that. Yeah, he knew all of that. And even the things that I was nervous about were, obviously we're very different, so we experience things differently, but still I was nervous about being homesick because I haven't been away for that long before, and, just sort of out of routine because I've just always been in work or studying or whatever. So I was nervous about that, and, asking him about that, like, how will that be? And it was absolutely fine. I loved it. It was great. None of the things I was worried about, I didn't feel any of that. But so it was good to have, obviously, Omar, who'd done it, been there, knows what it feels like.
Yeah. Each trip is totally different, like completely different to the last one. On this one, we did a lot of flying, more flying than I've ever done. On other trips, it's just been, I've taken a landmass and worked through it, border to border.
A continent.
Yeah, a continent, or like South America, Central America, Asia. Whereas this one, because we really did dot around the world, there was a lot more flying. So it was a lot more logistics at play, and a lot more forward planning. But I've got enough experience of doing that by the time we did it, but it was fine. And yeah, it it was actually better than fine. It went really, really well. So yeah, logistically it was all right. But the first time I went, it was crazy, and we didn't know what we were doing. Like,
and the big thing that we both kept saying is, technology. You've got Wi-Fi everywhere. You can FaceTime people if you miss them. It's changed everything.
That's changed.
Yeah, really disconnected. Okay, so for the newbie,
yeah,
right here. I'm not newbie to travel, but not that type of travel, and I have no idea what you guys do for a career, and if employers are all open to this, like saying, yeah, all the time we're giving people sabbaticals. But so what to the newbie, who what do you say? How do you plan this? What do you do?
I honestly think, having done this with a few employers now, I genuinely think if you're in a position where your employer knows and really values you, and they know that actually they're better off letting you go for a while than seeing you leave, then that's a position of strength that ultimately will speak for itself. So if you go to an employer, I mean, look, people take time off work for all sorts of reasons, really sad reasons, and really good reasons, and often, I don't know what maternity is like in the US, but you can have ladies that will leave work for a long, long time and come back. So no one can tell you that it can't happen. The question is the rationale and the reason for it to happen. And I just
sorry.
Our employers, what they do is they'll look at your performance and they'll say, are you really worth keeping? Because the first answer is, really? That's a real pain for me if you leave. And I get that, we get that. But if you leave for a decent amount of time that isn't too long and you're worth keeping, then go and have a conversation with your employer and say, look, this is something that I really want to do for my own development in my life. I've worked here for 5 years, however long. I've been where I work for 3 years. And I said, look, I've given 3 years of my life to this. I love it here, but I've got to do stuff for myself too. It's only 4 months. I'll be back in no time, in a blink of an eye. So let's make it happen. Otherwise, I could possibly leave.
And the way Omar helped me shape it with my employer was just that it was like this very unique moment that, we just kind of framing it like how we just did, that, we've just got married. This is our chance. Just kind of, I guess, giving some rationale as to why it was important to us at that moment, just kind of appeal to their...
The other really practical thing, Perry, was providing solutions for the problems that it causes. So you don't just go up to an employer and say, hey, I really want to do this, and that's it. I looked at my workload, the things that I do. I talked about the people that could step in for me while I was away. And, collectively to show that actually me going can be, overlaid with other people stepping in and taking that headache away from your own manager.
Yeah, so I had to, write an action plan and, talked about like their budget, like how much money they'd save, because obviously it's unpaid. So how much money they're going to save while you're away. And what it will look like while you're away, and what the advantages would be for them.
So you don't just present a problem, you present a whole story, i.e., this is what I want to do. This is why I want to do it. This is why it won't make a massive impact to you. And this is why everyone's going to be happier after it's done.
That's really good, because that'll run through people's minds. I think sometimes a lot of people feel that they're expendable, and that if they, and that really, it's testament to both of you, because you're providing value for your employer. They obviously respect you, and you've given them that plan. That it's not, hey, I just need a break from you guys, so don't pay me. And it's not like it'd be very easy for people to say, well, gosh, you've just given them rationale to say, gosh, we can cover this job with just a few other people. And yeah, we are saving this money. But because you do have the value that you're bringing back, you're coming back refreshed and new perspectives and stuff like that. And maybe even up in your game when you get back in the work and back to work.
Exactly.
Honestly, Perry, like from my point of view, I'll employ people as well in our business, right? And I just think it's a really fresh way to look at things, because people start to value that relationship between the employer and actually say, like, I went back to work 100% driven, 100% committed, refreshed and ready to go. That can only be a good thing. Yes, I was away for a little while, but you're tired. You get tired in life, you get tired, and it's just much better that I've come back fresh, happy and dedicated. And if employers are sat there going and they see a good person that they value and they're like, sorry, you can't go, and they leave, that's just stupid. That's just silly,
Well, and you guys are young, and but I know a lot of people that are working their butts off for a long time for this someday fantasy land of retirement that they're working for the weekend. They're barely catching up on sleep. They're exhausted, overworked, overwhelmed, overweight, etc. And then hopefully there's this magical retirement thing where everything's going to open up and they're going to have all these opportunities, which a lot of times doesn't happen. And you've got a lot of people on their deathbed going, you know what, I wish I would have engaged more with family. I wish I would have traveled to see the world. I wish I would, the things that we keep putting off. And you guys didn't do that. That's why I have you two on here, because it's testament to that. So that's awesome to hear. Let's get into the trip. Okay, take me through it. You're gonna plan it however you planned it. What did you do? And then packing for this, because you guys went through major extremes, and also the 780 suitcases that you brought with you for souvenirs and all of
Can I do planning and you can do packing?
I'll do packing.
I'll do planning.
You just did one backpack. You're going to tell me that, aren't you? No, go ahead.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look. So planning was. Where do we start with planning? We always start with what do we really want to do and how much time do we have?
Yeah.
So actually, for me, it always starts with what do we really want to do? Because
there were some big hitters, right? There were places that we wanted to go to that are really far away, and it's like when you are that far away, do all the things that are close to it. So like you wanted to go to Vanuatu, you wanted to go to Tonga, New Zealand.
Yeah, but it's broader than that. There's a starting point. Like we were like, okay, I want to go to. Basically, I'm the kind of guy that I want to go everywhere in the world. That's what I want to do. So I remember thinking East Africa. We could fly in to Kenya or Addis Ababa or Ethiopia and work our way down the east coast of Africa. So do like Kenya and Mozambique and Tanzania and Uganda and all those types of places. So that was like, you end up with, you literally have the world at your feet, right? So planning genuinely starts at a crazy high level. It starts with the world. And I'll tell you something, when you ask for time off with work, you better make sure you ask for long enough because you generally don't get a second bite of the cherry. So actually, we had to like try and extend a massive amount of time. So you kind of have to dual run the two things, the time and what you want to do, and you have to kind of like balance the two as you go. But we started off with this concept of East Africa or around the world trip, doing loads of different things. And what we found is that it was a toss of a coin really in terms of what we were going to do. But we went with the round the world trip because we kind of thought, you know what, we can't do both really, and let's just get the one that's really sort of flying based and really sort of random and sporadic out of the way, and maybe we'll do East Africa another time. So that was step one. Then, like Sophie said, we started looking at different regions that we were interested in, and we were kind of like, what's the furthest away that we could get to for now? How far could we go? So from England, the other side of the world, if you drilled straight through it, is like the South Pacific. So that's the Australia, New Zealand, Tonga, Vanuatu type area. So we thought, why not? Like we've always wanted to go there, right? So let's go and do that little block. And to Sophie's point around when you're there, you might as well do that region because it's so far away. None of us had a real interest in Australia, to be honest, but we were like, look, while we're there, we better just do it and get it ticked off. So Tonga because you can swim with whales there. Vanuatu because they've got some amazing volcanoes and lava lakes there. New Zealand because it's New Zealand, and Australia because we have some friends there. So we did that little region, and when we knew we were going to go there, we started to work back. But that was the logical plan. Then things got pretty illogical when we were like, there's an eclipse, let's go see that. And things got illogical when we were like, I really want to go to Everest Base Camp. How can I shovel this into this plan? And we want to go to Japan and watch the autumn leaves there. It's a very specific season. How are we going to get that done? So it went from rational to fairly irrational quite quickly. But when you're doing a bucket list, hey, you got to do what you got to do. So the planning ended up actually quite seasonal as well, because you can only get to Everest Base Camp at a certain window of the year. Otherwise, it's too cold or dangerous. The autumn leaves are in Japan for a couple of months. You know, the whales are only in Tonga for 1 month a year. And the eclipse is literally 3 minutes and that has a very specific date and time. So really the planning was starting to pull all these types of things together. And there isn't a right answer when you're planning this stuff because it's so crazy, but you just end up going, right, here are the big marquee things that we want to do at each time. And here are the dates that cannot move. And then you just end up playing with it on a spreadsheet or on a bit of paper. And that's when you map out your plan, basically, and off you go. That's it. Simple as that. And we knew how much time we'd have between each flight. So we just knew when we'd land in a country and leave the country and land in a country and leave the country. And everything in between, we just bought some guidebooks and worked out what we were going to do in between.
Oh, wow. Okay, so, I see you scuba diving, or I see you going through a volcano or whatever. You kind of had a general idea, but basically you got to a country and like, okay, let's figure it out.
Yeah, we knew the highlights in each country because that's why we were going there.
Okay. So
some of the highlights were super specific, right? The US highlight was the eclipse in Yellowstone. That's why we went there. In the South Pacific, swimming with whales and seeing the lava lake were the two reasons we went there. So you do go for really those bucket list items. Maybe there were 5 bucket list items.
But we never planned, for example, on going to Arches National Park.
No. Yeah. So there's bucket list items that are like written in stone, and then you build stuff around it when you're there and that kind of thing.
While we're here, let's check this out. Or, gosh, I didn't know this existed. So
yeah. And and going into the tourist information office, like every single town or whatever we were in
the US,
in the US, I mean, they were brilliant, and they just tell you what to do.
Yeah, we didn't know we were going to Arches for the day.
No. And they said it couldn't be done.
Yeah.
They said you can't go the day.
But it's quite funny. You said we met in Idaho of all places. Like, we picked where we were going to go for the eclipse. So I sat down, and this guy had made an amazing website. I don't know if you used it as well, where he had Google Maps and he had the line overlaid with the line of the eclipse. It was phenomenal to inch perfection, because we knew that you had to be in exactly the right place at the right time. And so I followed this line all the way across America, from the sort of was it the Oregon side all the way down to the other coast, and just plotted potential places that we could watch the eclipse from. So that took a lot of planning. I did that from the UK.
But then we'd always wanted to go to Yellowstone.
Yeah.
So it kind of just felt.
We built it around that. So eclipse, and that's when we built in Yellowstone. And Arches was a complete fluke that we just filled a day with.
But it was amazing. And now we want to go to Utah for like a month because there's so much to do there.
You must have some amazing places that you're like, okay, bucket list done, but
bucket list number 2.
If we can get back and explore this a little bit more, take the time. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. So actually, to answer your question, how do you plan it? Some bits you plan to the millisecond, and some bits you just go with the flow. And that's a nice, healthy balance to go through a trip, because if you're completely aimless, you'll end up wasting 4.5 months. But if you're too rigid, you can't go with the flow and do fun stuff and be spontaneous and sporadic. It's too organized.
Yeah.
So we found a decent balance. Yeah. And that's what we did. I didn't hear you there, Perry. What did you say?
Oh, I said that you missed you'll miss those unexpected surprises.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
And then in terms of packing, so again, I had Omar's help with that, but we both had one big 60-liter backpack.
Yeah.
So just one of those really big. You can't see my hands there, but massive backpack.
It was bigger than that.
It was bigger than that. It was massive, and then one normal size rucksack each. And so and we needed everything from bikinis and swimming trunks to fleeces and thermals. And just trying to keep it minimal. I think it's the normal thing of like, you always take too much on holiday and then you never wear it all. So just really kind of trying to limit yourself. I suppose, we knew we weren't really going to be doing anything particularly smart. So we didn't need any like smart clothes or smart shoes or anything like that.
Yeah.
So we both took like walking boots, a pair of trainers and flip-flops.
Yeah.
And you just have that for 4.5 months. And, we weren't going anywhere that remote. We'd have places that we were stopping off, like, Sydney, where you could just, restock if you needed to of any basics. But we didn't really need to.
I got one word for you, man. Layers. Layers. Because, so for example, the coldest that it was Everest, in the Everest region, and that was -20. And the hottest that it was my guess would be Indonesia, and that was something like 35, 36
I'd say
degrees.
hotter.
That's Celsius.
In the jungle, boiling.
Yeah, I mean, hey, the point is it was really, really hot, and it was really, really cold. And the only way you can really, when you're carrying all your stuff, you can't take the massive, massive coat that you would normally wear in the cold. So you end up wearing layer upon layer. And I think my favorite bit of kit that I took was a really good technical fleece that was quite lightweight but had really good warmth for it, which I just loved towards the end of it. But just good technical stuff and loads of layers, and you'll be fine. I'd say that we carried something like 13 kilos each of kit, which isn't that much.
No, and it really taught me to be more minimal as well. So when we, I think that's one thing we've both really changed when we've come home, is just kind of had a big clear out of all the junk that you just don't need, that you just always pass by. Like, maybe when you're getting dressed in the morning and you just look through your wardrobe and you're like, oh, no, not that. All those things that you're just like, you're always dismissive of anyway, just throw out, just get rid. So that's kind of continued.
Yeah. We don't need the clothes that we have and accumulate. I think a lot of people just get bored and go shopping all the time. Like, we just don't need it at all. And you find when you're living out of a bag for 4.5 months, you get used to it so fast that it doesn't bother you in the slightest.
And you keep things, I felt like I kept everything so simple so that I wouldn't get sick of it, because it was just like a white t-shirt, a black t-shirt, a grey t-shirt. Like, you can't really get bored of it because it's just so simple.
And there's laundry everywhere, so we just wash our clothes in a laundrette. I don't know,
like every 2 weeks.
Every whenever we needed to, really.
Yeah.
So it was perfectly okay. No, look, you can always buy stuff along the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's shops everywhere, so that's the thing that we did.
That was why you had the other suitcases with all the souvenirs and stuff, No.
Yeah.
that was tough. That was tough towards the end. We did have to give things. So we did have friends in particular countries, and we gave things to them to like either send back to London for us, or if we met them again towards the end of the trip, we'd pick it up from them at the end. I mean, we'll talk about it maybe later, but one of my favorite parts of the trip was Japan, and I just wanted to go crazy buying stuff in Japan. I was like, I need an extra suitcase, but I just basically threw away a lot of stuff to make room for all the things that I bought.
I think it's great. Only being able to own what you can carry on your back,
what you can fit into one bag,
is really powerful.
Yeah, it's great.
It's good.
It's really nice.
So the things that you guys learned a lot. You experienced it, but I mean, I'm sure Sophie it was quite a learning experience for you, and just to and say, gosh, how can we apply this simplicity to the rest of our lives with things, because it's really chaotic at times, right?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds cliche, but that Japan does have quite a minimalist vibe, and that's just kind of what it's like. And Japan really, after that, we were both like, right, we've got to be more minimalist. Like, this is ridiculous. We don't need all these things. So that's definitely one thing we've brought back.
It's great. It's great. It just shows you what you can do. There's so much noise in life, just noise that you really just don't need. And just to focus on things, whether it's, and that manifests itself in clothes, or it manifests itself in friends that you don't need anymore, or it manifests in bad habits and food that you don't need, or whatever, however it does. At its core, it's that life's pretty straightforward, and it's a lesson that comes home really loud and clear when you do take time to step away from your daily routine and do something completely extraordinary. And it makes you think, man, like, time is just passing me by, and I waste time. And that's something that I love doing on these trips, because I always come back feeling richer and more motivated.
Man, there are so many benefits to doing this. I could just see, we take the week vacation and stuff like that, and always you come back and you're like, yeah, but it wasn't long enough, because it's just a week. But anyway, so what were your top favorite places that you went to? You mentioned a couple here before we hit the recording button, but please share.
I'll do the bucket list, but you can do the obvious.
I've got my top three. I think you picked top 5, haven't you?
Well, you go first.
All right. So my top 3 were the eclipse, just because it was just an absolutely sort of overwhelming and really emotional experience. So we've seen the Northern Lights before in Iceland, and it's the only thing I can compare it to when we're explaining it to people, in the sense that it's not something that you can understand just from watching it on TV or looking at pictures. You have to see it for yourself. You have to go and see one. And we've told everyone, you have to go and see one. And I know you saw it too, and it was just so incredible, how the light changed and how kind of the sounds around us changed, and just seeing this mass of rock, the moon just moving in front of the sun, was just crazy. And we both burst into tears, just so overwhelmed. And I was laughing, like, why am I crying? This is so strange. But it was just so amazing. I just absolutely loved it. So that's one. Then the other thing was Everest Base Camp. So that's, the hardest thing I've ever done, ever. And the other way I describe that is it was heaven and hell. It was amazing and beautiful, and such a challenge, but in the way that a challenge can be so good. I felt really sort of proud of myself, and again burst into tears. It sounds like I cried a lot, but of sort of just achievement and relief. Literally the second my foot stepped onto base camp, I just couldn't believe that I'd done it. But it was hellish. It was freezing and smelly, and the food and altitude sickness, so all of that. But that was another thing. And then my third favourite is just Japan as a whole country. I can't pick a moment or a thing. I just loved it, and I've wanted to go there pretty much my whole life, and I just completely loved it. And that was the other time I cried, when the plane landed in Tokyo. Tears just came into my eyes. I couldn't believe I was there. I couldn't believe it existed. I felt like I'd sort of made it up in my head. And I was like, I'm actually in Tokyo. I can't believe this. So yeah, they're my top 3.
I just followed her around with a box of tissues the entire time.
I didn't cry that much on the trip.
We knew why you were there now.
Yeah, no, look, those 3 things are, well, the first 2 are also my top 2. The eclipse we've talked about. Everest Base Camp. I can't remember a time in my life where I didn't want to go and see Mount Everest. I there isn't something in my head that says I was 6 years old and then someone showed me a book. I actually remember it as long as I remember my own parents. You know, it's crazy. So that was something that I was never going to budge on and that we had to do. And it was just amazing to get to a place that you don't even know how long you wanted to go there. It's just been that long. So that was awesome. The other things on the bucket list before we actually left the UK to go and do stuff, the main things were to swim with humpback whales. So we did that in Tonga. That was fantastic. I mean, they're enormous animals, but so gentle, so beautiful. So that was really, really good. Another thing was seeing the lava lake that I mentioned in Vanuatu. So there's 5 of these on Earth, and this was our second one that we've gone to see. So we're kind of targeting them a little bit, and they're basically like, you know, a sort of, how do I show this? Oh yeah, it's like a cauldron of lava, and it's just going blah, 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 the whole time. It's permanent. So that was number 2 down. So that was on the bucket list of stuff to do. We want to try and see all 5 if we can. Or I do more than she does, so that's fine.
I'll go back to Japan.
So go back to Japan. The next thing on the bucket list was seeing orangutans in the wild. So we saw them in the wild in Indonesia. Beautiful, wonderful animals, just stunning, gorgeous, massively huge, powerful, but so gentle and beautiful. Another thing, there's a bit of an animal theme. I do like animals. Komodo dragons that we saw in Indonesia as well were great, and oceanic manta rays that we went diving with in Indonesia were really, really great. So those are the things that, if I had to write a list on the day that I left, I was like, as long as we see these things and do these things, and I think that was 5 or 6 maybe, then that was the trip. But so many awesome things happened in between there, right? That we didn't expect to happen. That would definitely make that list. But those were like the core 5 or 6 things that and they didn't disappoint. You know, they were all absolutely amazing.
That is so cool. I just had a friend that she just took advantage of an opportunity to go down to the Galapagos Islands.
He's been there.
Yes, I bet that doesn't. And so, yeah, she started in Quito and done a few other things. The next thing I know, she's on this little travel boat thing. She just said it was just an opportunity to she wanted to seize it. And so hearing your story and then hearing what she's saying is really, really cool. And to see the animals and everything. And you're swimming with the whales. She's paddleboarding along seals and stuff like that. But, so what on this trip, I mean, it sounds so incredible, and I hope to get some photos from you guys. I know you got a bunch on your Facebook and maybe little video clips that we can share here too. But what went well and what didn't go so well on your trip?
Well,
that's a good question. She sounds like she's got a few of those.
Well, there's some health issues, weren't there, both of us?
Yeah, like it's on a trip like so. Okay, so what went well? Let's start with what went well. What went well is that it was the first time Sophie and I had done something like that. So it's a big test for us, you know, like literally you're joined at the hip with somebody, and she's completely dependent on me, really, because she's not done this before.
So yeah, we've been married for 9 months.
Yeah, we've been together for 4 years or something. And married
sure.
For 9 months or something like that.
But I think one thing we actually learned, and we kind of thought we knew already, but it really put it to the test, is that we get on really well, so that helped. You know, we don't bicker, which is really, you know, spending all that time together. You might sort of bicker about like small things, and we didn't. I mean, I think we maybe had like 3 arguments or something on the whole trip. So that went really well. We just get on, and we just we just kind of get on.
We get on with each other. When it matters and it's stressful, we pull together.
Yeah.
So there's a line that we'll never cross in terms of that.
Yeah.
And so in terms of our relationship and how we work, that went really, really well. And it was a risk, right? Because, we've never spent that much actual time together all day, every day. You just don't do that with anybody.
Especially when you're stranded on an island.
You have work, you go to work, everyone goes to work, so you don't actually spend all day together. So that went really well.
All the big things, like nothing disastrous happened. We got all our flights. We didn't lose our passports, or our luggage. Like, we were really lucky. Like, pretty much everything was just smooth logistically.
Yeah. What didn't go well? Other things that went well. We were on budget, so we didn't overspend. We didn't underspend. We didn't have to do anything we didn't want to do in terms of compromising on safety or security or getting to some place and saying, actually, we can't afford to do that. We did everything that we wanted to do. So that budget's always a risk.
And that we did everything that we wanted to do. Like all the things that we went, that you've just listed previously, or, we went to this country to do that. We were able to do those things. As in, obviously nature, you can't organise. So, but we were lucky, we were in Tonga for a couple of days, and we went out to see the humpback whales, and we just weren't able to get into the water with them until the last time that we went. So those things can happen. Obviously, you can try and just not manage it, not see any whales.
It could have been cloudy on the eclipse day, for example.
Yes.
All those things that happen.
Yeah.
We actually got really, really lucky. We nailed it.
It was very smoky that day, so it was a little filtered, but it wasn't over. Got to see it.
So we did. That's all good. The bad stuff was nothing bad happened beyond the realms of what you would expect. So when you're traveling for 4.5 months, there'll be a time where where your tummy's upset because you're not used to the food. Or there'll be a time where you're a little bit ill. The worst that it got for Sophie was some food poisoning, but
so we did actually miss the flight. But we couldn't. I got food poisoning in Vanuatu, and we were supposed to fly to Sydney the next morning, but I couldn't move. It was really bad. So,
that was it really. There was nothing else to worry about. And if you'd said at the start of the whole trip, Sophie's going to have food poisoning for a couple of days, and that's the worst thing that's going to happen. We would have taken it.
And the other thing that I've said as well is like all the things that could have gone wrong at home, like the things that would have pulled you home. So, just something bad potentially happening. That was an anxiety of mine as well before we went. What if something happens? What if we have to come home? Which obviously you just come home, don't you? And then the trip's over. But that didn't happen. So we were fine. No, but that was on my mind. I've got 2 grandmas. They're pretty old. Like they're absolutely fine. They're in amazing health, which is fantastic.
We can always play the what if game, right?
I don't know exactly.
We create stories in our head, and
but everything was fine.
To be honest, Perry, in 14 months of doing stuff like that, through my life, maybe in the last 10 years, nothing bad has happened that you wouldn't expect. The worst that's happened is a bit of food poisoning. That's it, man. It's really it's not that hard. As long as you're a sensible person, it's really fine. So actually, like on the balance of things, it was fantastic.
We were just very lucky the whole time. I mean, even when we were doing the Everest Base Camp trek, when we got to base camp, you come back down again the same route that you've already walked up. So we're walking down, and you see people coming past you, walking up, and it started to snow, and it was freezing. And we were so lucky because during the days hiking up, we were wearing t-shirts and shorts or whatever. But these people, they got it bad.
Yeah,
they were walking up in bad, cold weather.
Talking of luck, can you imagine walking for 9 days, 8 hours a day to get to Everest Base Camp, and it was cloudy and you couldn't see Mount Everest?
Yeah,
that happens to people, And
we had amazing weather.
We just had great weather. So
yeah,
I would say
that way, didn't you?
Yeah, well, I would say that it was down to great planning.
Yes.
Because we sat there and we went through the seasons, and on those marquee things, we looked at it and we said, right. In fact, in the US, I went through everywhere along that line, and said, where's the lowest risk of cloud on that day? And we found that actually past some sort of mountains in Oregon, it was pretty much like perfect timing. So it was, a lot of it was down to planning and making sure that we were in places in the right season, because if you don't do that, you will end up very, very disappointed, especially in extreme places.
That is so smart, and not something that everybody considers.
No.
And so those are some great tips that you guys are sharing. So what did you guys learn about yourselves? Well, I know the simplicity, the simplify. I know the planning.
Omar always says to me about Everest Base Camp, because sometimes I can be quite, critical of myself and hard on myself, and I get, get down sometimes or whatever. And he always says to me, even when we were standing at base camp, he said to me, next time you're feeling bad or you think someone's put you down, just think to yourself, you've got to Everest Base Camp. What have they done? And he still says that to me now. So I suppose it's sort of, it has taught me that, I guess I'm stronger than I thought, and I can just get my head down and do something even though it's really tough. And it's really worth the reward at the end.
Yeah.
Sounds cheesy. It sounds very cheesy.
Cool, it's true, though.
But it's true.
What else? She's tougher than she thinks.
Something I learned, actually, which I was saying to friends the other day. So obviously we're from London. Pretty much lived in London my whole life, and often people that aren't from London and come to London say, "Oh, I can't take it. It's too busy. It's too many people." And I never understood what they meant. I just thought, what's the problem? There's people. It's fine. And then when we flew back, I was so overwhelmed with the people. I couldn't believe, that even though it's my home and my city, I felt really overwhelmed by it all. So yeah, it's just kind of a strange feeling, just kind of being home and being uncomfortable a bit with it all. Like, I've settled back into it now, but yeah, I think London is overwhelming, and it was really nice to get away for so long and just get away from it all. The usual one as well of like just being on your phone too much. There were long periods on the trip where I broke my phone in Nepal. I plugged it into a wall and it just like exploded, just like blew up. So I didn't have my phone in Nepal, and we couldn't use the phone on the trekking. And I think, when you're away, you're sort of out of sight, out of mind, so people don't really get in touch as much. So I just wasn't really on my phone as much. And now, now I'm back, you get your WhatsApp messages and your Facebook notifications, and it makes you anxious. And you're just on your phone and like, oh God, I forgot to reply to that. And, I should message this person. And, it's not nice.
She's learned quite a lot then, by the sounds of things.
Yeah, but I don't have any lessons for how to deal with that, because I haven't changed. I've just had to slip straight back into how it was. But that contrast when I came back, it really hit me.
Yeah, she does use her phone too much, and it was nice to see that by the fact that you just can't use it, i.e. there's no Wi-Fi in most of the places that we're at.
You don't need it.
You start to value that. You really do. I always put my phone away. I don't like using it on these trips at all, because the whole point is to get away from stuff. But obviously for Sophie, it's a totally new thing that she's not used to. So there's more of a ramping down of that. Whereas I'm just not interested in that sort of thing. I think the things that I learned about myself on this trip, not so much this trip, on this trip specifically, I learned a lot about my relationship with Sophie and how we work. And that was great. We learned that actually when we're fighting, we should just be quiet and not talk, which was great, like a really practical, because there's nowhere to go. We're stuck to each other all day. So we learned how to deal with our emotions when we're annoyed with each other a lot more, or mainly I did, which was basically just to shut up. So we learned that. But I'd say that like over over the time that I have travelled in total, I'm just like almost a different person without those experiences. I think I've learned that it's all about perspective. It's all about perspective, and it's so easy to lose perspective so quickly when you're in everyday life. And therefore the ability to just step out and go away allows you to refocus and re-energize in things. So like for me, it's the main learning of travels is just seeing how other people live, broadening your mind, and actually thinking to yourself, all the things that I find really, really important, beat myself up about, work my ass off to achieve, worry about, focus on, it really doesn't matter that much. And that's what I take from being able to do this.
I was going to say, another big thing I learned, or that we kind of learned together as well, was just about like so many people that we met, complete strangers, were so generous. And it really made me feel, and we reflect together, that we want to be more generous. And with the main thing that you have is like your time, but like resources as well. And I think, again, living in London, it does kind of just make it's not an excuse, and it shouldn't be an excuse, but it kind of feels like it's harder to be generous. So, you know, like, I don't know, like people coming to meet you at the airport, or think like just those really small things that, you know, we had friends that did that on our trip. And, you know, when you're 2 months into traveling or 3 months in, and, you know, you're constantly landing at an airport, and, you know, airports are those sorts of places where you see like families running together and hugging and reuniting, and it was just the two of us in a strange new place. So it was so nice. I think we had 2 occasions where friends met us at an airport, and it was just the nicest feeling landing, knowing that there's going to be someone there waiting to greet you. But in London, I don't know, it takes like, what, an hour and a half to drive to Heathrow Airport, which is where most people fly into.
It's not really the practicality of being less selfish or more generous. It's a mindset. It's a mindset. So when somebody stops you in the street and says, "Hey, do you know where this place is? I'm kind of lost." Are you the type of person that's just going to go, "Oh, sorry, I don't have time"? Are you the type of person that's going to say, "What's the name of the street?" And if you don't know it, you say, "Sorry, I can't help you"? Or are you the type of person that's going to get your phone out, work out where it is, give them directions? Or are you the type of person that's going to be like, "You know what, I'm going to take you there myself"?
Yeah. And we met so many people that would be like, "I will walk you there.
I'll walk you there."
Yeah. And I'll buy you a drink on the way, or whatever. Like, so many generous, kind people.
There's people, and there's also cultures as well, Perry, like that. Some cultures, they are more laid back, and they are, I feel like in the US and in the UK, we're so scared of strangers. We're just told to be scared of everything all the time. Like, be scared of that country. Be scared of people you don't know. Be scared of wildlife and going out. Be scared of going to take risks in your own personal life. All this sort of stuff. Such nonsense. It's so annoying. It really frustrates me. You know, when we told people what we were going to do, they're like, "Oh, you can't go there. It's dangerous." It's not dangerous. It's absolutely fantastic. In my previous trips through Central America and South America, people are like, "Oh no, you can't go there. It's too dangerous." Met the loveliest people you'd ever meet in your life. And we have this issue in our countries, because we are quite similar in our culture of fearing stuff. And in other countries, it doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist. People are so welcoming and warm to strangers.
Although, interestingly, on this trip, because of, unfortunately, last summer in the UK, there were like, you know, a string of terrorist attacks. So when people ask us, "Oh, where are you from?" we'd say London, they'd be like, "Oh my goodness, how that's really dangerous. How is it living in London? Are you okay? Are you scared?" So it's funny, obviously, you know, if you're not from somewhere and you just read about it on the news, then of course, you know,
we don't live in danger or fear. Like,
no.
we love London. We have a great time here. But people assume that we're scared. And it's like, stop being scared, everyone. Just go and do the things that you want to do. And so, yeah, we learned to maybe more. I certainly learned that being generous is more important.
Mm.
Maybe Sophie learned that actually it's not as scary as what you think it's going to be, and I've always known that for a long time, and push that agenda. So yeah, no, we learned some really cool stuff, and we've definitely come back better.
Mm.
That's so cool. Well, obviously, you recommend this to anybody. Obviously, there needs to be some planning in advance, and if you're going to take time from an employer to strategize and and plan and do that. So, are there any things that you wish you would have known before the trip? I mean, it sounds like you were relatively organized. I know if I ever plan anything like this, I'm getting on the phone with you two again. I've got everything in order. But is there anything that you wish you would have known beforehand?
Well, I don't know. I mean, this might not completely answer the question, but I remember the whole way round thinking, if I have a friend that goes traveling, I'll want to buy them like a little box and fill it with all the little things that, you know, that I know that you'll need. So things like, I think they're called carabiners. Is that right?
The little hook.
It's like
She's getting very practical.
I'm getting very
now.
specific, but you know, climbers use them to like hook on ropes and whatever. Anyway, so I'd fill it with carabiners, nappy bags for just like anything that's smelly and gross that you need to throw it away, plasters, antiseptic cream, antiseptic hand wipes, things like that. All these little things that like you'd see other people would have. Ooh, packing bags. I can't believe I forgot to mention this.
Repellent, I would guess.
Yeah, the packing bags were really important.
Yeah,
and we didn't have them. But we got them about 2 months in, didn't we?
But these are all things that
they're
are
very practical.
These are all things that are super incremental. Like they made no material difference to how much we enjoyed our trip. They're just things that help you a little bit.
Yeah,
you know, they're things that make your life easier when you're living out of a bag.
Yes.
But you know, they're just things that help you a little bit. They're not things that make a fundamental difference to the quality of your trip. They're all smaller things. For me, like, I mean, for me, honestly, there's nothing that I wish I know, because I've done it a few times. I think that the first time that I went, I wish I had brushed up on language a little bit better, because the other big thing here is language, right? So the countries that we went to, pretty much everyone spoke enough English to get by.
Mm-hmm.
When I went to South America, not knowing any Spanish was really stupid when I got there. But this was like 10 years ago, so maybe the English has improved there. But that was quite tough. But depending on where you are, where you're going in the world, like you said, we were really prepared, you know, but it's not our first rodeo as such. I can imagine people not having the right clothing and wishing that they'd got the right clothing and the right footwear and things like that when they do a trip. But I don't have any.
No, and we didn't have any like disasters, like I said. But you know, we did all the usual of like printing out all our insurance documents, taking copies of our passports. You know, just those things that, in case of an emergency, you'd have that sort of important documents. Health. No, I already said health insurance. And all our itinerary on paper as well.
If you think, what are the worst things that could happen? What are the absolute worst case scenarios, right? And you cover your ass for those things, basically. So the worst things that could happen are around travel insurance.
Using your
so you know when you go on holiday, if one of us got hurt or something like that, then you'd need good insurance cover, particularly the things that we were doing, right? So you do need good insurance in case the worst happens. You need photocopies of your passports, or have them online stored somewhere, because if you lose your passport, you're in a lot of trouble. So you do need to make sure that you have your passport sorted. And other than that, there's very little that you really actually need.
Ooh, for the Everest base camp trek, I wish I'd had. So they didn't, and I didn't read about this anywhere. No one said anything, but you can't drink the water, so you have to have water purification tablets, which weren't that bad, to be honest. However, there is this really cool, like, magic wand-looking thing that you can put in your water and you stir it for like 60 seconds and it will kill all bacteria. So you could literally like collect mud in a bottle, I think, pretty much, stir this wand in and drink it and you'll be fine. So I really wish I'd had this magic wand thing.
But again, that is super specific because we only needed that at Everest.
Yeah, I know, but if you're going traveling on a big trip, you might be going to countries where, well, if you're trying to be responsible and not cut down on plastics and stuff, because that's the big thing when people go traveling, is that you're always buying bottled water because you can't drink the local water, because that's the thing that's really going to give you a tummy ache. But if you've got this magic wand, then you can just collect that in your bottle and you don't need to be buying all these plastic bottles of water all the time.
It totally depends where you go.
It depends where you go, but there's a lot of places in the world where you'd need that.
There would be some regions, but we only needed to purify water
on
the Everest Base Camp trek.
Yeah.
So it's not something that I'd never carried them before, and I've only ever carried them for Everest Base Camp everywhere I've been. So it's one of those things that they would, it's a specific thing. But yeah, it was critical for Everest Base Camp for sure.
Wow. Well, you two have shared some amazing things, and wow, it just gives me chills to know what all you experienced. I know for me, I'm Mr. like doing selfies and videos and stuff like that. I don't know if I would have had, I would have been having an extra storage device to download stuff into, and I would probably need 8 months to do what you guys did, because I would half the time be taking so much time spending videotaping and doing all that stuff. But
that's something actually.
Yeah.
People are so obsessed with phones and cameras that they forget to look. Like the number of times, especially with younger travelers, that I noticed is they will literally arrive to somewhere that they've walked 5 hours to get to, and just their phone's like that in front of their face, and it's like, look at it with your eyes as well. You don't have to like take 10 seconds, 20 seconds to just go and just really observe it, and then get your camera out and take the shots that you want to show. I'm crazy about, like, we took loads of photos. I'm not saying you don't take photos. We took a great camera out there, didn't we, Sophie?
Mm-hmm. I was going to say also that, on the practical side, we had an iPad and we had a adapter, so we could plug the SD card basically into the iPad, so we could always keep downloading our photos to make more room.
To back up your photos.
Yeah, and back them
so
up.
Were they disengaged, like just off doing something else, and they were missing the opportunity, or was it?
No, I think they were.
Or was it what my camera saw on vacation, not what I saw?
Yeah, it's like they were viewing the stuff, but it's just that they're viewing it through a lens. Okay. And Omar's always saying to me, put down the camera, look at it, and then we'll start taking pictures after we've walked around it and looked at it.
I think maybe the way that we consume awesome views and content and pictures now is in a little box. You're so used to
just looking at it like that.
So used to only having a box to frame a beautiful picture that people, and look, this has been going on before camera phones. This happened for the first time I did this. People just get their camera out, and I'll never forget a guy who was a bit older than us. He was like, "Don't forget to look," because we were all just like, and I was like, that always just resonated with me. And I was like, yeah, I haven't even looked yet. I've just been taking pictures, and I've waited a long time to get here. Just put this down for just a little while, smell it, absorb it, and just soak it in, and then take your pictures. And we took loads of pictures, but we were just a bit careful to make sure that you took a mental image, because let's face it, like after you've taken loads of pictures and stuff, like, who watches their videos? I don't know people that watch their videos. Like, everyone takes a video or something, and then that's it. Like, you're much better off remembering it. We've been given a great an endless storage unit in our heads. So look at stuff was one of the things that I would say as well, right? Mm-hmm. Just soak it in and look at it. Don't just take photos of it all the time.
Great tip. Yeah, I'm like, what did you see on vacation versus what your camera saw on vacation?
Yeah. Which is probably quite cool about the eclipse in a way, because you can't really, well, we don't have the equipment. I don't have the know-how to take a photo of that. So.
And I'm so glad we didn't, because it's only 3 minutes.
You're just standing there and watching it, which is great.
So yeah, that's definitely something as well. You had me thinking, like a lot of your viewers would find like 4.5 months like a crazy amount of time to go away, but that you could just take a month, you could just take 2 weeks, like as long as your people are doing things that satisfy their own goals and their needs. Like step one might be, if you've always wanted to go somewhere and you've never been, go. Like, just go do that. You don't need to change the world and like, go on sabbatical from your job for 4 months to just go knocking down things that you want to do. So like maybe our example is quite an extreme example that one day someone could go and do, and they can do that, no worries. It's if we can do it, anyone can do it. But it starts with everything starts with a step, right? And the first step might just be going out of your normal comfort zone for a normal holiday. That might be the first way to do this kind of stuff.
I love that. That is a great way to finish the podcast. Because I was going to ask you, what are your top tips? But that right there, I think a lot of people have their bucket list. I'm usually asking people where it is, and it's like, so what are you doing to make it happen? A lot of times we create a bucket list. Like I know I've had one, but I don't go back and reflect on it all the time. And sometimes I'll go, when I do, I'm like, oh my gosh, I did do that. So sometimes those things happen, but great tips. It's so great to see you guys on here and come on and share your story. Any further things that maybe I didn't ask about, or that you're like, I wish I really want to share?
I have a habit of what you just said now, celebrating the achievements that you made. I have a habit of bringing back mementos from all my bucket list items.
Yeah, you probably want to show yourself, don't you?
Yeah, I don't know if it will come out in the light here, but whenever I've done something on my bucket list, I'll either blow up a photo of it or bring back something that reminds me of it. So I see it every single day. So in our house, I mean, it might not work on the podcast, but I can show you. But in our house, there's a few things like we have a picture of the Northern Lights framed up. We have a picture of the silverback gorillas framed. Our first lava lake volcano framed. We bought mementos when we saw the orangutans. I've got carvings from places. I pick up a rock from every beautiful, interesting mountain or volcano that I go to. So I've got a rock from Mount Everest. When I was looking up at Everest, I'll pick it up, and that physical piece always links me to what I achieved. And that's one way. It's just a rock. Any stranger can walk in and go, he's got a rock on his shelf. That's a bit weird. But when I see that, I know where that came from. And that's a way of like tying in something physical to a memory that you have in your head. So that's something that I really do, which super works for me when I reflect on these things. So there's another one.
Well, you two, thank you so much for taking the time to come on and share. This will be valuable to many people that are going to see it, whether they're planning a week trip to maybe 4, 5, 6 months, or even for some people that want to do retirement things or graduation things or mega moon sort of thing.
Mega moon.
It was not your honeymoon; it was your mega moon.
Yeah.
That's awesome, and I'm sure there'll be other adventures coming down along the way, and you're generating a list for down in the future for you guys.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure. Like it's all there, and now that we're mates on Facebook, we always stick things up for our families to crack on. So yeah, we'll see that all on there.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much.
Wasn't that an amazing interview? An amazing bunch of tips that and discoveries these people had. So my question to you is, what's on your bucket list? What is it that you're looking to accomplish? That those top things that maybe you're needing to take action on and just haven't yet. I know I've got a bunch, many that I've accomplished, but others that I'm like, what are you waiting for? Just start chipping away and doing one little bit at a time. We don't have to do 4.5 months all at once, although that would be really crazy cool, wouldn't it? Anyway, I hope you really enjoyed this podcast. If you find anybody that you think can benefit, please share it, pass it along. That would really be awesome. And if you found value from this podcast, please get over to iTunes or even in your podcast app. Give it an honest rating and review. That helps other people find it. I'd so appreciate it. You absolutely rock, my friend.
And remember,
it's never too late.
We'll see you next week. That was perfect.